For the last 5 years, I've been producing documentaries about missing media, mainly about Hollywood films. Because A, I'm a movie buff. I just find it easier to discuss what I love. Now I'm certain it's little surprise to any of my regular viewers. Or if this is your first time watching one of my videos, probably my accent gave it away, I'm from the UK. Growing up watching a great plethora of British children's content, with many of these shows being quite sentimental for me. And unfortunately many of these programs that I've grown to love have missing pieces of media, so I felt the time was finally right to not only make the ultimate love letter to the shows that I enjoyed as a kid and even today, but to also to help to spread a bit of awareness. Maybe yourself or somebody you know might have one of the items on the list and could help get it out there. So if you grew up watching UK television, I hope this video is able to ignite some of those warm nostalgic memories. Or if you're not from the UK, then I'd like to think that you will still find this video to be very insightful about other pieces of missing media from another country. I do sincerely hope that all these topics we'll talk about today won't forever be lost media. Right, with the context out of the way, let's start the countdown. Back in the 80s, arriving to work, artist and animator Keith Chapman saw a JCB on the side of the road. He quickly doodled down the vehicle, and after giving it some eyes and a mouth, he felt that it would only be appropriate to have a man to look after this living vehicle. The initial name for this man was Builder, before changing his mind to Bob the Builder. By 1997, Keith Chapman had the opportunity to pitch it as a show for Hit Entertainment, but he would need to create a proof of concept to demonstrate that the series had potential. Production of the test shoot was very hastily done in only a span of 3 months. By consequence of trying to simplify the script, the runtime is only 2 minutes and 10 seconds. The pilot is set in one location and only features 2 of the characters, Bob and Digger, who would later become Scoop in the final show. It wasn't too long afterwards that the show Bob the Builder was picked up, but for 23 years the pilot of the series went unseen. A user by the name of King Mr. Harvey was able to get in contact with one of the original producers who were kind enough to send him a copy of the pilot. It was uploaded on archive.org by December of 2020. In 1963, a 2D cell animation pilot of Noddy was created for a potential series that never got picked up. The episode provides a backstory on how Noddy came to Toyland, where Big Ears finds Noddy in the middle of the woods. Upon returning to Toyland, he's questioned by the court that if he really is a toy, as it's only toys that are privileged to live in the land. For many decades, the pilot was virtually inaccessible, before it finally received a publication thanks to the BFI releasing it through their BFI player. In 2002, 2 years before the series premiered on Channel 5, Peppa Pig had a pilot that was pitched to the network. Although the proof of concept has never garnered an official release, but it has been shown at various conventions around the UK. In a 2017 screening, somebody secretly recorded the pilot. They additionally screened another unaired pilot, Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom. The camera recording was uploaded on YouTube on April 29th of 2021. It was very quickly taken down before being re-uploaded on YouTube a few days later by user Blue Frog. Who knows if we will ever get a cling rip copy. It remains to be seen if these pilots will ever get an official release. Debuting on BBC in 1997 was The Teletubbies, a programme series that attempted to appeal to the toddler audience. But despite its humble background, the series ended up getting wrapped in a little bit of controversy. American Christian groups complained that Tinky Winky was a gay character, for being the colour purple a gay pride colour, carrying a handbag implying a feminist personality, and having an antennae that's a triangle, the gay pride symbol. Ken Visselman, who brought the Teletubbies to the States, said, and I quote, "He's not gay, he's not straight, he's just a character in a children's series," unquote. While there may have been adults beyond the Teletubbies age demographic that were finding the series rather offensive, that isn't to say that the actual intended audience didn't find the series somewhat upsetting. Typically, by the end of every Teletubbies episode, the Teletubbies would watch a performance from exclusive special guest characters. While the visuals were nothing vile, people who grew up watching the show can recall being rather unsettled by some of these segments. But the only short that had to be reseeded by the BBC was dubbed The Bear and the Lion. In the clip, the lion, or how he refers to himself as the scary lion, and I'm going to eat you. I know he didn't say that, but it sounds like something he would say. The lion would chase around the bear, as the bear would try and tease off the lion. Many younger kids were rather uncomfortable when they saw this segment in the show, and led to a number of BBC complaints from parents. Since the format of Teletubbies that they would recycle clips from episode to episode, the BBC had to pull the broadcast of all the episodes that featured the bear and the lion. They did attempt to re-edit the clip, where the voice of the lion and the bear was softer, with gentler music, although some countries still never showed the episode. Okay, so Pingu is not a British show, it was originally made in Switzerland, but it was such a big part of BBC's children's television that it seems a shame to overlook it. With some slight cultural differences between Britain and Switzerland, that some episodes had to be slightly re-edited or even outright banned in the UK. I am aware Pingu does have other banned episodes and edits around the world, but I'll be just referring to the UK controversies. In episode 1 of the series, Pingu gets tripped up and hit by some bullies. These moments were edited out for the BBC repeats in 2003. In episode 3, where Pingu has to look after an egg, there's a moment by the end where Pingu hides away. This scene was edited out by the BBC. That's because this scene softly implies that Pingu's parents would have been violent against him, thus why he hides away for his own safety. Episode 14 of Pingu ceased re-airing in the UK by 2005, due to depicting Pingu being spanked after his bad behaviour. And in season 3 of episode 9, the BBC edit out a moment where the mum slaps Pingu across the face. But easily the most infamously banned episode from the UK is the programme where Pingu has a nightmare of the Walrus. The episode ceased re-airing on the BBC by 2003, although it was never banned in the US. In fact, unlike the UK, the episode did make it onto home media within the States. Be Safe with the Tweenies was a semi-spin-off of the Tweenie series, broadcasting between 2003 and 2008. The series shows the Tweenies in short stories demonstrating dangerous scenarios that a kid may be wrapped up in, and the best way to counteract the danger to remain safe. As of today, only 2 episodes are currently missing to view. One named Horses, and the other named Knives was the only one that was purposely banned by the BBC. All that can be currently seen of the episode of today was a short clip that was used for the spin-off show in the intro. Mark Speight was a children's television presenter, with his most popular gig co-starring Smart. One of his earlier roles on children's television was the game show See It, Saw It. There, that's where he would meet his future partner, Natasha Collins. Natasha had a promising acting career ahead, getting cast as one of the main characters in the Channel 4 drama series Holly-O. But the same day that she was told that she got the job, she was in a severe car accident, where she was in a deep coma. She was able to somewhat recover, but by consequence, she had repetitive seizures for the rest of her life, making her incapable of continuing her acting career. She would use the compensation money from the accident to start her own business company. At this point, her and Mark Speight became really close. One night, Mark and Natasha were drinking alcohol and consuming sleeping pills with cocaine. Mark went to bed while Natasha ran herself a warm bath. But when Mark woke up the following afternoon, he found his dear Natasha dead in the bath, with the tap still running. Mark was briefly arrested in suspicion of murdering Natasha, but he was soon let go. Because of the loss of his partner, Mark resigned from children's television. He would spiral into a deep depression. Family, friends, and co-hosts would try immensely hard to help Mark through these times. But only within a matter of months later, Mark committed suicide. One of his dear co-host friends, Kirsten O'Brien, would relay his death on the children's news show News Round. While the broadcast tiptoe around the mention of suicide, parents complained to the BBC that a children's programme shouldn't bring up the subject of real-world death. Since then, Newsround has never been hesitant of tackling heavy subjects. Today, this broadcast of Newsround can't be found on the internet. When Jim Henson's Muppet series Fraggle Rock made it over to the UK, the live-action inserts of Doc were re-recorded with a new character, the Captain, who resided in a lighthouse. The Captain would tend to be a little bit meaner and blunter than Doc, the original US host. Aside from a new live-action man, the rest of the episode would remain the same to its US counterpart. Unfortunately, many of the master copies of the UK version no longer exist. In the early 2000s, there was an immense campaign to get the US version of Fraggle Rocks released on DVD, and while that succeeded, the same could not be said for the UK counterpart, with a very spotty archive of episodes. The distributors, Hit Entertainment, would attempt to contact the Jim Henson Company in the hopes that they may have a more completed archive. By December of 2020, the BFI's Missing Belief Wiped event were able to rediscover all the episodes that do exist in some format, but fan Alex Taylor would confirm that only 29 of the episodes were in broadcast quality, with it currently remained to be seen if all the episodes will ever be officially released. Wolves, Witches and Giants was a cartoon anthology series that aired on CITV. The series would retell many classic fairy tale stories, with recurring villains such as, well, the wolf, witch, and the giant, sometimes reinventing the fairy tales to feature either one of these characters that were not featured in the original tale. The show had about 4 series, each running for about 13 episodes. The home media release of the series have been rather sporadic, with partial releases on VHS and DVD, but not including all the episodes. It was difficult to watch the whole run of the show until by the early 2020s, where all the episodes were unofficially uploaded to YouTube. Airing since 1958, Blue Peter is the longest-running kids show in the world, still airing new content on BBC, educating young viewers on how to do their own arts and crafts, discussing about animals, history, new technological advancements, a variety of all sorts really. They also give out Blue Peter badges for recognising the achievements of young viewers, or just the success of celebrities, with over 5,000 episodes to date. Fortunately, unlike most BBC programmes, Blue Peter has a very healthy archive of episodes. They even aided the archive by providing some of the only known clips of several episodes of a now long-lost cult British TV show, which we will talk about at some point. The episode listing for Blue Peter episodes are nearly complete, with the exception of the first 5 years of Blue Peter, which are now completely lost. Between 1997 and 1998, there was a Wallace and Gromit stage show. The plot of the show combines both the wrong trousers and the close shave, with the penguin from the wrong trousers as the main villain. There are very few photographs circulating online of the stage show. It's believed that there may be footage of the performance, but it's not known as to what company or what person may have it. The first TV rendition of Robin Hood was the BBC broadcast of 1953 that ran for 6 parts. It was performed and broadcast live within the area of London. The main character of Robin Hood was played by Patrick Troughton, who would later star in Doctor Who as the second incarnation of the Doctor. In fact, in the 2014 Doctor Who episode, Robots of Sherwood, there's a brief monitor reference of the Troughton show of the 50s. Today, only small fragments of Part 2 have survived. This is the earliest surviving footage of Troughton on television. Small clips were shown in various BBC documentaries over the years, but the full 7 minutes of footage was made available on the Power of the Daleks special edition release. Being a live telecast, you can see some small imperfections within the programme, such as how the projected background is unstable, and you can just make out the production crew talking in the background.
A horse, sir? Nay, I couldn't say there. No horses hereabouts, except them belonging to gentlefolk.
The first Wallace and Gromit book was published all the way back in 1936. There have been several adaptations of the stories. Perhaps the most prominent example is the Jon Pertwee series of the late 70s and the 80s, originally conceived to be a feature movie, before it was downsized to a television series. But the Jon Pertwee rendition was not the first adaptation to come to the moving image. That would have to be the BBC adaptation back in 1953, featuring Frank Atkinson as Wurzel and Mabel Constandaros playing as Wurzel's wife. It was filmed live and lasted for 4 parts. There are no known copies of any of the episodes. Bodrum Badger was a BBC's children's television series that followed the antics of, well, Bodger and his badger, running for 9 series from 1989 to 1999. While there's a plentiful amount of episodes that are available to watch online, there are still quite a few that are missing, especially from the early series. Series 1 is missing 3 episodes, episode 2, 5 and 6. Series 2 is virtually complete, with the exception of episode 2. Series 3 is only missing 2 episodes, episode 3 and 7. Series 4 is currently missing the most amount of episodes, episode 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 and 9. Series 5 was the introduction to the recurring character of Mousy. Her first introduction episode is currently missing along with 4 others. Thankfully, the rest of the series from this point onwards can be easily viewed on YouTube, with the exception of episode 9 from series 8, where the only copy that's available is a cam recording of the episode. Mission 2110 was a drama/game show that aired in 2010 on CBBC. The series follows the only known surviving human of a robot uprising named Caleb. Waking up from stasis, he has no memory prior to the show. He's taken care by Sibley, an AI, who acts as a motherly figure to him. By utilizing time travel technology, Caleb recruits young kids from 100 years ago to take down the robot uprising. The series lasts for about 2 seasons. There were rumors of a possible 3rd series, but it never came to fruition. The props and costumes of the robots were reused in numerous other BBC productions. In terms of availability, Series 1 only has episode 9 to 13 that can be easily viewed, where Series 2 has episode 1 to 7. Stupid was a CBBC comedy/sketch series, starring Martyrs Bridgestock as King Stupid, who's a regular comedy actor for the BBC, and Rusty Goff as the butler Goober, who has had a wide variety of film and television roles, the most famous of which being the acrobatic Oompa Loompa in the first Willy Wonka movie. From episode to episode, King Stupid and Goober would get up to antics, while watching and making the people of Earth do stupid things. In the sketches they would watch, they would feature recurring characters. The series lasted for about 2 seasons, with a grand total of 20 episodes. After the series was finished, there were no reruns, and for the next 11 years it was extremely difficult to watch the full series. It wouldn't be until late 2018 that all the episodes would be uploaded to YouTube. The original uploads have been taken down, but have since been remirrored elsewhere on YouTube. Muffin the Mule is by far our oldest show on the list, with the first episode debuting on BBC television back in 1946, with all the episodes being performed and transmitted live. The show featured the title character, Muffin the Mule, alongside the rest of his marionette friends, hosted by the human presenter Annette Mills, who would usually be sitting beside her piano singing a tune. After the passing of Annette Mills in 1955, the BBC decided to discontinue the series. The character of Muffin the Mule would make minimal appearances on television during the later part of the 50s. But there wouldn't be a true revival of the show not until 2005, with an animated reimagining of the marionette characters that debuted and reran on CBeebies until 2008. In 2006, to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Muff and the Mule show, all 20 surviving episodes were made available on a DVD set. 4 of the entries had previously never been released on any format. The set additionally included several rare Muffin films. One that's particularly interesting is a vintage silent cartoon. The booklet that accompanies the DVD doesn't mention about this animated short. From what little I was able to gather, the cartoon may have been made back in 1974 or 1975. At least 3 Muff and the Mule cartoons were made during this time. What happened to the other 2 and why they were made is a complete mystery. Keith Harris was an immensely popular ventriloquist on the top variety shows back in the day. His most famous creations was Orville the Green Duck. They both performed a hit song, I Wish I Could Fly, that actually reached number 4 on Top of the Pops. He had his own primetime show on the BBC during the 80s, and was worth an estimated £7 million. But when variety shows fell out of fashion during the 90s, Keith Harris found it immensely hard to get work, and since he had dyslexia, he didn't understood many of the contracts he signed. Through some bad investment, he lost his fortune. He was able to steadily climb back up his career ladder, mainly working within the theatre circuit, and while he never quite bounced back in the same popularity as he did back in the 80s, he remained to be a very beloved ex-TV host, and would occasionally reappear on television during the 2000s and 2010s. In 2015, due to an ongoing battle with cancer, Keith Harris would pass away. He was only 67. One of his most outrageous projects during his late life was when he was doing a tour of theatre performances. In the day, he would do one for families, but by evenings, he would do one exclusively for the adults. This was part of an ongoing trend at the time, where blue acts were becoming popular. As of right now, there are no known recordings of his adult shows. Marrying Mum and Dad was a documentary series that aired on the BBC and CBBC, where of course the parents get married, but it's up to the children on what kind of wedding they will have. And through the episode we see them and the host, arranging all the details. Being produced during the early 2010s, the programme did not shy away of depicting a same-sex couple, as in one episode 2 dads get married, perhaps very well the first example of portraying a same-sex marriage for children's television, predating by at least 5 years the American cartoon Steven Universe, where in one of the episodes they depict the lesbian couple Ruby and Sapphire getting married. Unfortunately though, this historical milestone in children's entertainment is currently missing, along with many other episodes of the series. The original run of the Wurzel Gummidge series starring Jon Pertwee lasted for 4 series. It was briefly revitalised by the end of the late 80s, in the sequel series Wurzel Gummidge Down Under, that lasted for 2 seasons. By the 90s, Jon Pertwee was eager to do a new series with Wurzel Gummidge, but now in his 70s he didn't want to do anything that was too physically demanding. However, a TV producer by the name of Philip Ettinger felt that a good direction with the franchise was within the medium of animation. Pertwee loved the idea. Being a fan of animation, one of his favourite movies that came out recently at that time was Aladdin, originally conceived to be a hand-drawn series before they switched to stop motion with clay models. With the cost of the production being so low, animator Morris Pulley did the photography work from home, so he didn't have to pay for studio space. Jon Pertwee and Una Stubbs came back to voice Wurzel Gummidge and Aunt Sally respectfully, as well as doing the voices for the other characters in the pilot, as they were unable to hire on any additional actors. Being unsatisfied with the look of Wurzel and Aunt Sally, the designs were changed during the shoot. This inadvertently led to continuity errors in the final pilot, with the designs changing from scene to scene. Overall, the final short was unsatisfying and proved to be difficult to sell to networks. They were able to get a deal with UK Sky as a home channel for the show, but needed to seek additional funding. But the project would ultimately be scrapped by May of 1996 when Jon Pertwee passed away. As the main face of Wurzel, it was impossible without him. The footage of the pilot would go unseen for over 20 years, until it was finally publicly shown on BBC News in early 2019, just coincidentally coinciding with the 40th anniversary of the first Wurzel Gummidge series with Jon Pertwee. The original rushes of the animation were rediscovered. As of today, only snippets of the BBC News report is the only glimpse we've got of this 10-minute pilot. Tugs was a short-lived model series on CITV that aired in 1989 for 13 episodes. While it never received a second series, it's garnered the reputation of being a cult show, with many devoted fans and followers. Tugs is tend to be referred to as the older brother equivalent of Thomas the Tank Engine. This is because the storylines tend to be more darker when compared to the Thomas show. The episodes as well are as twice as long, running for 15 minutes. However, the episodes were filmed for a 20-minute runtime. A year before the series premiered on television, 4 of the 20-minute episodes were released to VHS, before they were cut down to 15 minutes. The rest of the series would get a VHS release, although these episodes were in the broadcast 15-minute format. To date, the series has yet to have been released on DVD. And while some of the extended episodes are in the hands of the fan group Tugs Exhibition, it has yet to have been seen if they will ever be released officially or at all. Raggy Dolls was an ITV cartoon series, following the adventures of some defective dolls from the reject bin, airing between 1986 and 1994, lasting for 9 seasons and 112 episodes. Series 1 to 4 were released on DVD between 2010 and 2011, although the last 4 series never got released on the format, and there are hardly any of the later episodes online to watch. Terrorhawks was a 1980s puppet series created by Gerry Anderson, who was well regarded for his other puppet shows, like Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlett. While Terrorhawks never reached the same peak of popularity as those prior shows, it has still considered to be a great underrated gem in the Gerry Anderson universe, earning a renaissance of interest when the storylines were continued in the Big Finish audio dramas, and a reboot of the show is currently in the works. But when it came time to release the series on Blu-ray, the original negatives of the show were worryingly missing. Unfortunately, it appears by 2005, Gerry Anderson, who was in early stages of dementia at the time, inadvertently ordered the destruction of the original negatives. Thankfully, an archive of 16mm prints of the episodes was rediscovered and were used as the source for the HD restorations on the Blu-rays, although 4 episodes were missing from the 16mm pile, only existing as the 1-inch videotape format, meaning they can't be converted to true HD. Tracy Beaker is a drama series that aired on the BBC, following the life of Tracy Beaker in a care home, with the television show based on the book series by Jacqueline Wilson, garnering 2 sequel series and a spin-off show. It's amongst one of the longest running children's shows for the network, with all the episodes of the franchise consistently in rotation. However, there is one elusive piece of Tracy Beaker media that only ever aired twice, that being the 5-part special Tracy Beaker Parties with Pudsey. Pudsey Bear, if you're not aware, is the mascot for Children in Need, a charity organisation that the BBC throws eventful nights every year to raise money for the cause, often featuring returning BBC cast and crew to do something special for the evening or build up to the event. However, because of the charity cause and agreement for a typically lower pay, many of these specials and clips usually don't get a release beyond their first airing, hence why the Tracy Beaker special has not seen wider exposure, but it can still very easily be found online. Bear Behaving Badly received its one and only DVD release in 2008, featuring 5 episodes from the first series. And while all the episodes of the series are regularly available online, the episodes on the DVD features a different end credit scene, where it features a blooper reel of the episode you just watched, where in the broadcast episode it doesn't feature the custom-made blooper reel. It's more than likely that the DVD version were how the episodes were originally meant to be seen in, before, to lessen the runtime for broadcast television, that the blooper reel were deleted out. And while it's not known, it's more than likely that the following 3 seasons were not edited in the mindset of featuring a blooper reel. But if it is to be believed that season 1 had an end credit blooper reel to be shown at the end of every episode, then from 26 episodes we're still missing 21 outtakes. The Fab Lab was a primary school series that educated very young children about basic science, featuring 2 pixies, Trixie and Dixie, who lives in a garden shed. They're usually visited by their dog friend Prof, who's the teacher of the show. This series ran between 2002 and 2006, although it never garnered any home media release. By consequence, episodes of the series are rather hard to come by, with currently only 4 episodes easily available, which have been unofficially uploaded online. Big Baby was the brainchild of John Reach, originally coming up with the idea of wanting to superimpose an adult's head on a baby's body for a music video. No band he talked to were keen on the idea, so he instead did a proof of concept test with Spencer Jones to be featured in a possible sketch show. The clip found its way to the BBC, and a pilot was commissioned for the series. The effects test can easily be found on Vimeo, but the pilot is still inaccessible to watch, with only 2 screenshots of the project re-emerging online. In one of the images it features an early puppet of Budge. In the episode Ducks, this puppet was used for some scenes, despite looking different from the main show version. Scratch and Sniff's Den of Doom was a children's game show that aired on CITV, lasting for only 1 season, airing in 2007 and reruns continue until early 2011. It wouldn't be until the early 2020s that episodes began reappearing online, which currently 7 are available, but there are conflicting sources stating on how many episodes were produced. It may be as low as 15 or as high as 26. That makes it hard to estimate as to how many episodes are still left to find. The Animals of Farving Wood was an animated drama show based on the books by the same name, featuring animals that originated from Farving Wood, who had to flee their home after it was overtaken by construction workers. Now the animals put aside their differences as they travel to the nature reserve White Deer Park as their new home. The show was well praised for being extremely mature for a children's show, and did not shy away of many of the darker aspects of the books. The series took an extremely long time to come to DVD, where all 3 seasons were available by 2016. But that can't be said for the stage show. There's very little information about the production. The year that it was in production was in 1998, and it was a co-production with Green and Lenigan, and that's it. No videos, no pictures, nothing. Musician and longtime Thomas fan Andrew Lloyd Webber had received the Railway series rights in the 1970s and was planning to make a musical animated series. The company in which who were responsible for making the pilot was Granada TV. The 2D animation reportedly looks similar to Ivor the Engine, with animator Brian Crossgrove, who worked on the pilot and would later on go off and format the British animation studio Crossgrove Hall Films. However, the US backing, which was essential for bringing the show to life, never materialised, leading to the whole show being cancelled. To date, its one and only pilot episode has never been publicly shown. The Sarah Jane Adventures was a spin-off series from the Doctor Who franchise that aired on CBBC, with Elizabeth Sladen coming back to reprise her role as Sarah Jane. Sadly, she would pass away due to cancer in early 2011. Because of this, Series 5 of the Sarah Jane Adventures was cut short, with only 3 storylines out the 6-episode plan fully completed. These were aired in October of 2011. However, according to rumours, they had started filming later episodes of the series, and that they were going to use the unused footage of Elizabeth Sladen for a Doctor Who Series 9 storyline, where it would have been about Sarah Jane's funeral, but this has never been confirmed. Grange Hill was a BBC children's soap opera following the life of the students who attend the secondary school Grange Hill. It ran for 31 seasons and had 601 episodes, airing from 1978 to 2008. While the show was on television, it scantily ever received a home media release. Highlights of the first and second seasons were released on VHS during the 80s, but were edited and condensed down, and missing further episodes, specifically the ones that carried an ongoing story arc. It wouldn't be until Grange Hill's 30th anniversary that the first 4 seasons were released on a DVD box set, albeit with episodes slightly edited to remove copyrighted pop songs that couldn't be cleared for the DVD release. From 2018 to 2020, Series 5 up until 10 were released on DVD, but there are no plans to release any more of the series on home media. From 2021 to 2022, the first 9 series of Grange Hill was released on BritBox. This leaves the remaining 21 seasons ambiguous to purchase for the public, with fans relying on unofficial uploads to the internet to watch the remainder of the series. Unsurprisingly, there are missing portions of episodes from Series 10 onwards. BBC Scotland had a number of programmes that exclusively aired in the Gaelic language. One of the original shows that aired for the 2003 launch of CBeebies Alba was Nadunya Bega, which translates to The Little People. The show was about 3 magical creatures that lived in a fantasy land. In each episode, they would learn about different topics. This could include going to different places like the zoo or the fish market, which would be filmed in different places in Scotland. The programme would include learning about basic elements such as colours and numbers, and the magical land wizard would tell different stories each episode. The show had 6 seasons and reruns continued up until 2013, although today there is little to see of the show. Clips can be seen on the BBC Alba website, but with no full episodes available to watch. Shoot was a short-lived CBBC series that aired in 2007 and had a 13-episode run. Each episode would be filmed from a POV shot, with a poor individual falling down the garbage chute of the BBC. They would land on a junk pile of tapes, where the host of the show, an unfortunate man named Ross, who is trapped amongst the junk heap, where him and the viewer would pass the time by watching the various VHS tapes that were down below. With the programme being a clip show, these clips consist of either other BBC programmes or the most recent online viral video of the day, with Potter Puppet Pals making its TV debut on the show. This series would occasionally guest star various CBBC characters.
Hey, Peanut. It's Dick and Don. What are you two doing here? Oh, they threw us down here ages ago.
For nearly 10 years, the series was hard to come by, until by 2017, where all episodes were uploaded online. In 2007, skits starring Chins would play between CBBC programmes. There was an ongoing gag where Oucho, one of the main presenters of the channel at the time, would be terrified whenever a Chin skit would be played. Personally, myself, I wouldn't blame him. In terms of availability, only 2 of the Chin clips have been uploaded online, one of which is in camcorder quality. Pat and Stan were CGI cartoon characters that originally debuted on the French network TF1. eventually receiving an English dub, and became particularly popular in Britain, airing on CITV. The characters additionally had a TV series that ran for 39 episodes. They also did bumper skits with the characters that would air between commercials. Well over 400 short skits were created with Pat and Stan, along with a mixture of pop cover songs. Their most popular video by far is their rendition of The Lion Will Sleep Tonight. The clip was used for an Italian advert to sell Ferrero's Kinda Chocolates. The clip was additionally uploaded on the early days of YouTube and became one of the first viral hits for the website. The United Kingdom dubs of the shorts have all been uploaded to the official YouTube channel. That is, with the exception of the YMCA music video. That was never uploaded. The short has been unofficially uploaded by other users on YouTube, albeit in far inferior quality. Prove It was a factual program that aired on CITV, running for 2 seasons and 26 episodes between 2005 and 2007, tackling urban myths and legends, where they gathered the evidence to see if it's true or not. The show reran on the channel up until August of 2012. It was never released on home media, and only 1 episode can be publicly accessed. The Eliminator was a game show that aired on CITV, with the first series airing in 2003 and the second series airing in 2004, with a grand total of 26 episodes, presented by regular host of the channel, Michael Underwoods. The format of the show that there would be a group of kids, where they would need to proceed to level, travelling on a square path, similar to a board game, where the way they would move is that they would have to correctly answer a question. If they could correctly answer an easy question, they could move 1 space, a medium question 2 spaces, and a hard question 3 spaces. If they get a question wrong, they don't get the luxury of moving up the path. All the while, there's a character called the Eliminator, who steadily moves up each grid pass per the team's go. If he's able to catch up to them and get on the grid, it will be game over for the group. Currently, only 13 episodes are available to watch from the show, 4 episodes from Series 1 and 9 episodes from Series 2. Sootys Amazing Adventures was a spin-off cartoon series of the puppet show Sooty, airing between 96 and 97. In the main puppet show of Sooty, the cast of the puppets wouldn't have a voice with the exception of Sue the panda. In the show, there would be a human presenter that would interpret and relay as to what the other mute characters were saying, such as Sooty whispering in the presenter's ear, and Swoop the dog communicating by squeaking, and the presenter would translate this dialogue to the audience. But in the cartoon, all the characters were able to talk, with the exception of Sooty, who remained mute, and the other characters would interpret as to what he was saying through mannerisms. The series was exclusively about the puppet cast, with none of the prior human presenters to appear in the show. Richard Cadell, the current presenter and rights holder of Sooty, had destroyed the original master copies of the cartoon, not being particularly fond of the series, and additionally wanting to prevent anybody else from seeing it. Throughout the 2010s, there has been an intense search to find all the episodes. Right now, nearly all the episodes have been found, with episode 18 being partially recovered, and episode 12 and 17 still being lost. Astro Farm was a stop-motion series that aired on CITV back in the early to the mid-90s. The show did find its way to the States, airing on Nick Jr. from 1999 to 2003. The show follows the family known as the Foxwoods, who runs a farm on an asteroid. Sometimes they're pestered by the Gorps, who live on a nearby asteroid. Beyond the series' original time on television, it's received very little exposure. There was a home media release in the UK, with some episodes making it to VHS, but it's now extremely hard to find. Out of the 52 episodes that were made for the show, only a quarter of them can be easily accessed online. In 1967, Adam West paid a visit to the UK, dressed up as Batman to create a special clip educating children on the curved rule on how to safely cross the road. It was only ever shown in the UK and was presumed lost forever, but a group by the name of Kaleidoscope, famous for seeking out missing British television, had found the lost footage and had publicly announced it in April of 2018. It was first shown privately at a Birmingham screening, later being uploaded on YouTube by the YouTube channel I Am Birmingham. The first TV adaptation of the Noddy books was back in 1955 on ITV, named The Adventures of Noddy, that used marionettes to bring the characters to life. The show only lasted on the channel for a year, but more episodes were produced for the BBC up until 1958 and ceased reshowing in 1963. Unlike the majority of TV shows from this time, the whole programme of Noddy is preserved within the BBC archive, but the corporation haven't done much to release the episodes within recent years. But they did release them on home media some decades ago, albeit as silent reels of films, and they are greatly condensed down to a quarter of their original length. Some of these have made it to YouTube. Only one full episode of the whole series have been found. The team at the Lost Media Wiki were able to recover the episode Noddy and the Moon. In the late 90s, Disney was considering to do a stop-motion direct-to-video series based on their rendition of Winnie the Pooh, in collaboration with the UK animation studio Cosgrove Hall Films, who have had a long legacy of creating some of the most iconic UK shows of their time. By 1999, a pilot was fully created, but a deal didn't go through in the end. Test animation of the stop-motion has resurfaced online, but the pilot is still completely lost. Danger Mouse was an 80s cartoon that ran for 10 series, created by now defunct British animation studio Cosgrove Hall Films, Danger Mouse perhaps being their flagship show, as it garnered spin-offs and even a revival in 2015. Before the first series premiered in the fall of 1981, two pilots were created: 1980's Mystery of the Lost Chord, which looks identical to the show we got. This pilot has been officially released on the Danger Mouse DVD sets, but the original 1979 pilot, The Great Bone Idol, has never been released. The only content that's available from the original pilot is a single screenshot and a model sheet of Danger Mouse, who looks slightly more villainesque compared to the final show version. Ivor the Engine is an animated show featuring both the title character, accompanied with his driver Edward Jones, as they work up north on the Welsh Railway line, originally airing on the BBC back in 1959. This was the first television production of Small Films, who would later create the series The Clangers and Bagpuss. Ivor the Engine would later be remade in colour in 1975, and would continue airing until 1977. While this rendition of the show has remained consistently available, the original black and white series has only ever garnered one VHS release back in 1991. The release features an introduction by co-creator Oliver Postgid. While you can very easily find this clip on YouTube, the actual VHS is now extremely rare and can command for high prices on the secondary market. Son of the original co-creator Daniel Postgig, who now runs Small Films, is aware of the episode's rarity, but due to the distribution rights being held by Universal have not yet expired, he's currently unable to move forward with a DVD release. But he has uploaded several of the black and white Ivor the Engine episodes on the Small Films Facebook page. Pit and Cantroth was an animated series that lasted for 2 seasons, airing on the BBC and CBBC. It was made by the same creators of Watch My Chops, featuring a 13-year-old cave boy called Pip, accompanied by his pet pteranodon, Cantroth, where from episode to episode they have to solve problems caused by the tribe. The series did get a DVD release, albeit only in French. As of right now, only 6 episodes are available in English. In 2006, made for Elizabeth II's 80th birthday, was the live telecast show Children's Party at the Palace. featuring all literacy kid characters invited to Buckingham Palace, although with the notable exception of the villains from all the stories, who in the special gatecrash the event, where they steal the Queen's handbag. In the handbag is her spectacles, and without her glasses she won't be able to read the specially made speech. So now it's up to all the hero characters of the children's stories to put a stern stop of the evil characters. The special features numerous of UK celebrities, including actors reprising their roles of playing some of these literacy characters prior before.
Are you Prince Harry? No, Dad calls me Ori Denry.
Prince William?
No, just William. Fancy a gooseberry eye? Steady on!
It's quite surreal the amount of characters they were able to get for the special, making it the Roger Rabbit crossover equivalent of the UK. Small clips of the hour-long special could be viewed online, but it wasn't until by 2021 YouTube user The Royal Fox re-uploaded the special in 13 parts. Letterland was a book series designed to help children to learn their ABCs. By the 90s, the books were selling within the million. From there, the franchise was expanded to the medium of animation. 4 direct-to-video stories were released in the late 90s. The first was released in 1997 called The Letterland Story. It wasn't re-released on DVD, but it has been unofficially uploaded on YouTube. The 9th of November the following year saw a Letterland Christmas story be released. It got reissued on DVD in 2003 but is now out of print. It has been uploaded on Vimeo, but the audio is majorly out of sync, making it virtually unwatchable. Detective Dickie Duck was as well released on VHS in March of 1999 and got reissued on DVD in May of 2000, but the DVD is as well out of print. The special is up on YouTube but only as a cam recording, and then the final special was Once Upon a Time in Letterland, released in July of the same year, and getting a DVD release on May the following year. Unlike the others, the DVD is still circulating online at a reasonable price and can easily be found on YouTube. But the rarest Letterland program by far was the original television series back in the 80s that debuted on Channel 4. It was sold on VHS but never got reissued on DVD. Only one episode can be found online. For a long while, many episodes of the CITV programme Dream Street were lost and not available to watch. Right now, out of the 2 seasons, only Series 1 is missing 3 episodes, and Series 2 is missing 12 episodes. Uniquely, in 2017, there was a bit of revitalisation of the show. In the country of Ireland, they had the series rerunning, remastered in high definition, and characters like Jack Hammer and the traffic cones have been re-rendered in CGI. The re-edits were done by Platinum Films. As of right now, the 2017 special edition episodes can't be viewed. Rob Hull was a famous TV personality renowned for his emu puppet, reaching the peak of his TV popularity by the 70s and 80s. But come the 90s, he would fall on hard times, becoming bankrupt and doing appearances on not just talk shows and commercials, but personal birthday parties for the cost of £500, just to eke out a living. He would die by 1999 after falling off the roof of his derelict rented bungalow, all at the cost of trying to fix a broken TV aerial. The last major show of his life was a cartoon series called Robin Emu, airing on CITV in 1991. The show was inspired by the 80s rendition of the Emu show called Emu's World, with Robin Emu living in a pink windmill, with the villains of Emu's World plotting their scheme. The respected actors came back to reprise their characters. The cartoon only lasted for 1 series and 13 episodes, with a handful of episodes released to VHS. Today, only 3 episodes out of the 10 are available to watch. Broadcasting from 2006 to 2014 was the comedy/talent show The Slammer. The plot was set at a prison cell. The inmates are talent show people who have been arrested for performance-related crimes. Each episode, crowds of kids would come to watch selected performances, and whatever prisoner would garner the most cheers would get to leave the Slammer by the end of the episode. Meanwhile, some subplot would be going on behind the scenes. Episodes of the series began re-emerging online from 2018, and slowly but surely, by early 2021, the whole series had been found. Dick and Dom of the Bungalow was a live TV event on the weekends, airing from 2002 to 2006, fluctuating and broadcasting on the channels BBC and CBBC. The host of the show was Double Act Dick and Dom. They would invite groups of kids into the bungalow, along with an occasional celebrity. In the show, they would watch cartoons, play games, win prizes, and participate into sketches. Viewers could additionally ring in to play along with the madness.
They're watching something else on TV. They're watching something else. They're not watching us. Hello? I don't know what that's saying. Hello? Hello?
The series has been extremely beloved, winning 2 BAFTAs, and coming back in the form of a live stage show, reuniting the original Dick and Dom. The series was especially known for its lowbrow jokes, and how by the end of each episode the bungalow had to be completely covered in gunk and slime. But one instance where it went quite far with its vulgar humour was in its series 4 finale, where the plot of the episode that Dick was pregnant, and by the end he gave birth to many, many children.
Look what I'm giving birth to!
You're going to miss all this on a Saturday morning, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? We're not back till September. You won't get any more of this on Saturdays when we've
Giving birth to about 50 children.
Oh, brilliant!
Around 40 viewers complained to the BBC about the episode, and was greatly exploited by news tabloids of the day. Despite its success, the format that the show was made in has secluded its exposure long after the show has ended. For example, since it featured licensed cartoons to be engraved within the show as quizzes, and a lot of songs and music throughout the show, they may have to be up to renegotiation for the BBC to even reconsider to reshow the programmes. The closest that the BBC has ever done as a rerun for the show is by showing many clips of the episodes as compilations on its one and only DVD release, and later CBBC shows. The only way to experience the series is by unofficial uploads of the episodes online. Most of series 3 to 5 have had their episodes uploaded, but series 1 and 2 have still got a huge portion of episodes that are missing. The 1975 series of Here Comes Mumphrey was the first TV adaptation of the Mumphrey books, airing on ITV for 52 episodes. The book series would later on be remade in the 1990s by Brett Allcroft, named The Magical Adventures of Mumphrey, and while that incarnation of the show is still mostly accessible, as for the 75 version it is pretty much lost. The only home media release the series has ever received was all the way back in 1983, on a VHS tape titled 2 Hours of Fun with the Munch Bunch and Mumphrey, containing 6 episodes of each show, but the VHS is extremely rare today, with only 1/2 of an episode being accessible by the internet. There has been another episode that's been uploaded, but dubbed in Persian. On a 1979 episode of Victor Lewis Smith, they showed a lost episode of Rainbow, dubbed the X-rated Uncut Rainbow. The clip shows the characters from Rainbow making a series of rude innuendo jokes.
Oh, I think Jeffrey's trying to get him up.
Oh, I can't get it in, Jeffrey.
Oh, are we going to play with our friends' balls today?
To play with our twangers as well.
Ever since the full clip has resurfaced on the internet, people have been perplexed as to the exact purpose of the video. Some have speculated that it was a banned episode, but at the same time were confused as to how the obvious innuendos got through to filming. Well, the short answer is, it was never intended to be broadcast. An old classic yearly tradition for both the BBC and ITV is that they would make a series of compilation tapes that would have mistakes and bloopers, and original footage of the cast and crew acting more obscene than usual. These tapes would usually be made for the employees every Christmas, the Rainbow one in particular being made for the 1979 season, with an innocent kids show acting out of character. Of course, this one had to be spread around without context. Gerry Anderson formatted his own production company during the late 50s called AP Films. It wasn't easy for the company at the very beginning, they were struggling to find work. Thankfully, their break would shortly come. A book author, Roberta Lee, approached the company to adapt her children's story Twizzle into a television series about a toy that comes to life with the ability to stretch their limbs, but insisted that it had to be done through the medium of puppetry. Gerry Anderson didn't want to work on a TV show of puppets, but needing work at the time, and an opportunity opportunity to break into television, he reluctantly took on the offer. This would kickstart Gerry Anderson's long TV career, making and producing many puppet shows, his most famous of which being Stingray, Captain Scarlett, and Thunderbirds, before working on live-action television like UFO and Space 1999. But Twizzle stands out as the only show Anderson produced where the series is completely lost, barring one episode. Captain Scarlett was one of the most popular shows created by Gerry Anderson, perhaps being a close second to his most popular show, Thunderbirds. The series follows the title character, Scarlett, head agent of the organisation Spectrum. In the first episode, he's killed off with his body being replicated by the Martians Mysterons, the main villains of the series. The replicated Captain Scarlett is able to break free from the Mysterons' control. Now back on the side of Spectrum, his newly formed replicated body is indestructible, making him the most valuable agent to go up against the Mysterons. Captain Scarlett would get a remake in 2005, with the original series creator Gerry Anderson being involved. This would be the only one of his classic shows that he got personal involvement of remaking, and the last TV series he ever got to produce, as he would pass away 7 years later. The 2005 revitalization of the new Captain Scarlett was greatly praised by critics and fans of the original show, retaining the charm of the original but appropriately updating it for a 21st century audience. As where the original series was very grim and dark for a 1960s children's television series, the same could be said for the new Captain Scarlett on how mature it felt for a family show. Despite on how it was initially broadcast on a Saturday morning children's block, the recent Blu-ray of the series has earned a 12 certificate. Given that a decade before the new Captain Scarlett series, that when the Ninja Turtles were brought over to the UK, they had to replace the word ninja for hero for feeling that it was too violent for children. It certainly seems that the UK can't make up their mind for what's suitable for a younger audience. Despite how much the new Captain Scarlett was able to get away with, there was one scripted episode that Gerry Anderson deemed to be way too dark for a family show, titled The House of Dolls, seeing Scarlett going on holiday with his sister and nephew. After a road accident where their vehicle is severely damaged, and with bad weather on the way, they have to quickly seek out shelter, which thankfully for them, there's a house that's nearby, home to a toy maker named Alexander, who would have been modelled after Gerry Anderson, and rather metaphorically, he had created several puppets in his house, with several of them harkening back to classic Gerry Anderson shows. A cowboy, reminiscent of his black and white series, Four Feather Falls, and a tailless mermaid, harkening back to the strange underwater alien-like creatures in Stingray. However, the Mysterons would soon take control of many of the puppets, first killing Alexander before moving their attention to Scarlett and his family. Meanwhile, Captain Scarlett's sister would gradually come to terms of the altered form of her brother. Initially meant to be the penultimate episode of the series, when it was cancelled, it was replaced by Grey Skulls instead, which fans have deemed it to be one of the best episodes of the series. While it was never made, it was reenacted by the cast in 2006 for an audience at the Fanderson Convention of Hertfordshire, albeit with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek fun. Rob Hull and his emu puppet dominated the British TV landscape during the 70s and 80s. But the precise origins of the act is a little bit hazy to say at the very least. Rob Hull began his TV career in Australia during the 50s and 60s, on TCN Channel 9, merely just helping out as a lighting technician before eventually appearing on camera. When he was working on an original act, he pulled out an emu puppet from the prop store. According to a 2003 documentary, A Bird in the Hand, which covers the career of Rob Hull, blatantly state that the character of Emu was a Channel 9 creation, and when Rob Hull returned back to England, he took the emu puppet with him, essentially stealing the character, with the network employing Marty Morton to replace the Rob Hull act with a brand newly made emu puppet. But Rob Hull has always insisted that he was the one that put the original emu puppet in the prop store to begin with, and later refined the act. As of today, there's no way to watch Emu's original Channel 9 appearances in Australia, and Marty Morton's TV appearances as well of the Emu don't seem to be available as well. Trap was a BBC game show airing on CBBC. The concept was that 6 unfortunates were trapped in the tower with 6 floors. In each room they had to complete a series of different challenges. but one of them would secretly be selected to sabotage the challenge, named the Saboteur, with a mistress just called the Voice, guiding the Saboteur on how to spoil the challenge. By the end of each round, the contestants must vote off on who they think the Saboteur was. The contestant with the most votes would be trapped on that floor, but if the Saboteur doesn't succeed into ruining the challenge, then it will be them to be trapped, regardless if they wasn't voted off. The series first aired in late September of 2007, just in time for the Halloween season. There were 3 series and then a final series called Trapped Forever After that was meant to act as the finale to the whole show. It concluded airing in 2010 and reruns continue until the mid-2010s. The show was extremely hard to view in the following years after it was ceased airing on the BBC. Fans of the show had campaigned to the network to get the series rebroadcast, but with little success. With the exception of the last series, Trapped Forever After, the rest of the seasons had rather spotty episode counts of availability, with season 1 being the most incomplete. Fortunately, by October of 2018, Trap TV was able to locate and upload all the episodes. But this would be a short-term victory. Many of the episodes got copyright claimed and blocked worldwide, with Trap TV having to trim and edit many of the episodes. You can still watch the whole series on the channel, albeit with some moments like the segments with the caretaker being removed out. In 2022, Trap TV was able to re-upload the whole first series without having to do any edits, along with a sprinkling of some episodes from series 3 and 2 that were taken down not too long after their first upload. Jim Will Fix It was a BBC television series that ran from 1975 to 1994, hosted by DJ and TV personality Jimmy Savile. The series would have children writing to Mr. Savile's, wishing for various things. Jim would invite them onto the show and make their wish come to reality. By the end, Mr. Savile's would give them a medal with inscribed, "Jim fixed it for me." 2 particular famous stories that the programme covered was the actor Peter Cushing wanting to name a type of rose after his late wife, Helen Cushing, and the other one was with 8-year-old Gareth Jenkins would get his wish of meeting the then current Doctor on TV, Colin Baker, in a mini Doctor Who episode called A Fix with the Sontarans. After the show's original run, there would be various specials, mostly looking back with warm fondness on the legacy of Jim Will Fix It. Although Jim Will Fix It was not such a wholesome show, Jimmy Savile's was a very powerful man at the BBC, abusing his position. He was a notorious sex offender and paedophile. It was an open secret at the company, as nobody dared to confront such a huge celebrity at the BBC. When the allegations were finally taken seriously, it was sadly far too late, as Jimmy Savile's had passed away, never having the legal chance to confront Jimmy Savile's on the situation. To date, it's the biggest scandal of the BBC, as they did had the knowledge and opportunity to stop him. While Jim Will Fix It was being produced by the mid-70s, a healthier time for the BBC archives, as far fewer programmes made at this time were being affected by BBC wiping policies. Because of the extreme sensitive nature behind Jim Will Fix It, the BBC will likely never put the episodes back out on rotation, despite with all the episodes still likely being within existence. Only 50% of the show can be easily accessed today. Lenny the Lion was a ventriloquist dummy created back in the summer of 1954, after the creator Terry Hall got inspired by visiting the zoo and would bring the act to his Blackpool performance. It would only be 2 years later he would first appear on BBC television on the variety show Dress Rehearsals. From the 50s to the 60s he would get various shows with Lenny the Lion, with the character spawning merchandise and a fan club. The Beatles made one of their first guest appearances on The Lenny Show, while the momentum of Lenny's popularity didn't maintain like Sooty or Basil Brush. Terry Hall would still continue to get special guest appearances on TV and stage, up until he had to retire from show business due to developing Alzheimer's. He would pass away in 2007. There's very little material of Lenny the Lion in circulation, while you can still find his post-1960s TV guest appearances. Footage of Lenny preceding the 70s don't seem to exist anymore. There's hardly any information about his TV shows on the internet. As of 2022, the only series that's available of Terry Hall and his lion is a single episode of the 70s series Reading with Lenny. Prior to the debut episode of 1999, the Tweenies had a pilot episode created at some point in the late 90s. It was either made in 1997 or 1998. There's very little information about the pilot of the show. We know from early concept design that there was a dropped character named Sid, who appears that he was going to be part of the kid characters. But if he actually made it as far as the pilot can't be said for sure. At most, the closest thing that's ever directly come from the pilot is a behind the scenes clip of the creation of the Tweenie heads. The footage was sourced from a documentary called No Space Like Home, where it interviewed the puppet designer of the series, Sally Pryzik. But even then, that's presuming that these heads were designed for the pilot and not the final show. The documentary doesn't specify this. "1984 was the debut of the most famous rendition of the Little Blue Engine, Thomas, spawning about 24 seasons, and the episode count coming to a grand total of 584, but only just a year prior to the first season of Thomas. Producer Britt Allcroft created a pilot. Although tight with a budget, she had to mortgage her own home to raise the funds. The story of the pilot drew its influence from the Thomas book Down the Mind. When the show was eventually picked up by ITV, the episode was remade as the penultimate episode of the season. A reused shot of the pilot did get to make it within the final broadcast episode. Thomas fans with a cunning eye were able to identify this shot of the model, where its build was slightly different from the one that was seen in the rest of the episode. The original pilot still exists in the Mattel archive, but in very poor condition, but there are internal talks to get the episode remastered for a possible release in 2025 to coincide with the Railway Series' 80th anniversary, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Jungle Run was a children's game show created by ITV for their CITV network. In the original rendition of the show that broadcast between 1999 and 2000, each episode would have a group of 4 kids, where they would have to partake in a series of different challenges, collecting bananas, where at the end it would contribute their time of how long they had within the Temple of the Jungle King. They would do puzzles to go from room to room, where a monkey statue would be. The further they went, the higher in value the statues were, from stone, bronze, silver to gold. When their time was nearly at an end, they would have to grab the highest value monkey statue and would have to get out before the temple closed. Depending on their statue, it would determine the value of their prize. If even one of the team members were unable to make it out, then they would all go home with no prizes. The original presenter of the first 2 series was Dominic Wood. He would do a magic trick at the beginning of every episode. From series 3 to 4, the presenter was Chris Jarvis. And additionally from series 3 onwards, the whole format of the show completely changed. It was no longer bananas they needed to collect, but instead small little monkey statues, each one worth about 10 seconds of time, with the incredibly rare ruby statue worth an additional 20 seconds. And when they were in the Temple of the Jungle King, they would have to try and bring back all the monkey idols. But if one of them got locked in, it wouldn't stop the rest of the gang getting their prizes, barring the one that was trapped, of course. And finally, from series 5 to 8, the presenter was Michael Underwood, with his era of the show having special guest stars participating in the competition, such as the Olympic athletes, a Christmas special with the 888 Band, a crossover with another CITV show, My Parents Are Aliens, and 2 specials with the stars from ITV's Coronation Street. The prizes would go towards the celebrity's chosen charity.
What were you thinking about?
It was really hard.
We have had explorers who are 10 years old who have done that puzzle in 20 seconds.
Throughout its run, the show had a grand total of 99 episodes. The episodes with Michael Underwood continuously reran on CITV, but the pre-season 5 episodes, with Chris Jarvis and especially Dominic Wood, was ceased being shown on television. The availability of the early show was down to online uploads. For an extremely long time, there were hardly any uploads of series 1 and 2. A channel by the name of Nostalgia Kids UK uploaded the whole first series of Jungle Run. They appear to be sourced from Broadcast Masters, as some of the episodes have timestamps at the beginning. There's additionally a channel called Jungle Rerun, dedicated to archiving every single episode. Series 2 is only just about missing 4 episodes, with Series 3 to 4 only missing 1 episode each. But by March of 2021, this was all irrelevant, as the whole show was available on the streaming platform BritBox. The Chuckle Brothers were a comedy double act, being the equivalent of Laurel and Hardy of the UK. They had a long-running series on the BBC from 1987 to 2009, making it one of the longest-running children's programmes of the channel. Additionally, the Chuckle Brothers were just as equally famous for their pantos, where from the 90s to the 2000s they did a huge barrage of parodying many famous films and shows, like Star Trek, Harry Potter, Indiana Jones and Doctor Who. 4 of their theatre runs did get to make it to DVD, including The Chuckle Brothers in Trouble, Pirates of the River Rover, Spookies Going On, and Indiana Chuckle. However, it seems that the majority of their stage shows were never filmed or documented for future prosperity. There are various bootleg clips of some of the shows that never made it to DVD, but a full bootleg recording of one of the shows are extremely rare to come by. The bootleg circuit will likely be the only way we'll get to see many of these now lost stage shows.
Let's have a look inside.
No, but
Oh, what's in it? There's nothing in it. It's empty.
of course it is. You've let all the magic out. Look, there it goes.
Is that the magic? Put some in your pocket. Save it for
Yeah,
after.
but that's no good now. That would have made me rule the world.
Oh, it's a good job we got it then, eh?
Well, what are we going to do now?
In 1953, the BBC were going to adapt the railway series for the medium of television, with the first episode being based on the sad story of Henry, utilising real railway models to represent the engines, using the 00 gauge Hornby models as a visual way to stay more closer to the book illustrations. Judy Lang was the narrator of the programme, who had prior experience with the radio show Listening with Mother. A pre-recorded score was prepared for the show, as with the nature of early television, it was going to be performed live. Although, with the TV's crew inexperienced with railway models, and the stage set just barely being put together on time, things would go bad for the 10-minute broadcast. The trains were reported to have been moving in a very jerky fashion that would eventually lead to one of the models being derailed due to points on the tracks not being connected properly. Original author and model train enthusiast Audrey referred to this as an elementary mistake. The assistance of a stagehand had to manually put it back on the track while it was being filmed live for everybody to see. The following week, the story became a sensational field day for newspapers, overshadowing major stories of the day like John Christie. Because of how embarrassing it was for the BBC, the following episode was first delayed and then the whole show got cancelled. There are no known copies of the one and only episode of the series, and not even any photographs of the production itself, giving us no visual record of it today, making it truly a one-off experience for those who saw the original live telecasts. The Missing Coach is an incomplete Thomas the Tank Engine episode produced for the second series. The storyline featured the Fat Controller employing a new engine, but to his surprise he's given 2 identical engines named Donald and Douglas. He plans to send one of the engines back, but that engine's fate that it will become scrap metal, which of course neither of them particularly want. So they both work hard to show their determination and loyalty, but Douglas, through a series of mishaps, accidentally misplaced a very special coach. This incident may be the deciding factor as to which engine will be going back. Producer Britt Allcroft cancelled the episode halfway through production, believing that the storyline may be too complicated for kids to follow. Some of the unused footage was repurposed for later episodes. 2022 marks 60 years since Basil Brush first debuted on British television, even to this day appearing on popular UK programmes, with Basil earning his fair number of spin-off shows. But despite Basil Brush's consistent popularity, the first 28 years of the character is pretty hazy in terms of content availability, with Basil Brush's first appearance on an ITV series from 1962 to 1968 being completely lost. In these early appearances, Basil Brush appeared alongside another puppet character called Spike McPike, who doesn't seem to have stuck around for too long. Currently, the early surviving appearance of Basil Brush was an episode of The Basil Brush Show when the character moved to the BBC, which was announced to have been rediscovered by Philip Morris in 2018 at the BFI's 25th Missing Believed Wiped event. The last 5 minutes of the episode features a live performance from the Kinks, There are a huge number of surviving Basil Brush episodes from the 1970s, but in terms of availability, they were only featured as a best-of compilation on a DVD release in the early 2000s. The BFI have been painstakingly digitizing all the available episodes of the Basil Brush Show within the last few years, but it's not known if there are currently any plans to get the series released in any format. Pipkins was a puppet show that debuted on the ITV in 1973. A man by the name of Indigo Pipkin was a puppet maker where his creations would come to life. Sadly, later that year, the actor, George Woodbridge, would pass away of a heart attack. George had recorded many of the episodes before his passing, so that year's series continued as normal, with any of the unmade episodes that George wasn't involved with. His absence was explained that Indigo Pipkin was on a fishing holiday, but when it came round to the following year, the writers were in a dilemma where the title character Mr. Pipkin was gone. With the ratings doing well and not wanting to axe the show, they took the bold choice by having the in-universe character deceased as well, and had the season opener with all the characters reacting to Mr. Pipkin's death, predating Sesame Street's handling of Mr. Hooper's death nearly a decade prior. Goes to show that the UK was just as fairly ahead of the game of handling heavy subject matter in children's media.
Will I die?
Yes, but not for a very, very, very long time yet.
But I don't understand. Why do people have to die? Why can't they just live forever?
The series would come to an end by 1981. Unfortunately, the archive premises that they were being stored in by ATV were in terrible condition, with the episodes quickly deteriorating. Out of 330 episodes that were recorded, only 136 have survived. Nigel Plaskett, who provided the narration and the voice of Huckley Hare for the show, was able to contribute 53 of the surviving episodes that he personally recorded on video cassette, and additionally tracked down 21 more episodes. Sooty is the most iconic children's character in British television, going strong since 1952, just predating Elizabeth II's coronation to the throne. Not a single decade has gone on by without some version of the Sooty show. In 70 years there have been 3 presenters of the show, the most recent Richard Cadell, who's taken over since 1998. Preceding him was Matthew Corbett, who had ran the show for 22 years, and the original presenter was Matthew's dad, Harry Corbett, who had created the character back in 1948 to aid him with his magic tricks on stage. Unlike Matthew and Richard, where their episodes have been consistently in rotation, Harry Corbett began the show in a period of television before archiving TV shows became a serious business. But on the other hand, since he produced so many episodes with Sooty, it's difficult to even begin to comprehend as to how many episodes he created, alongside how many of those episodes still survive in any format. Richard did a 3-volume DVD release, presenting many episodes of the Harry Corbett era, which most of them have not been seen in decades.
Roll the film. Not like that.
Along with unaired colour episodes of the 50s that were originally made for the US market, but the producer passed away before the deal could be completed. In an extremely rare collector's edition DVD set, shows very rare footage of what's believed to be now completely lost Harry Corbett episodes, several clips from the 50s, and a special 1960s episode with Sweep and his flying machine. The DVD set that they were a part of was meant to raise funds for a Sooty documentary, Sooty Ungloved, which currently seems to be on its way of becoming missing media itself. Doctor Who was originally devised to teach the family viewership on both history and science. The show follows the mysterious Doctor as he travels through his space-time machine dubbed the TARDIS, which is bigger on the inside. The original TARDIS team featured 2 teachers, Barbara, who specialised in history and would aid her expertise for when the group had ended up back in time in Earth's history, and Ian, being a science teacher, would do the same vice versa for when they ended up in space, landed on an alien planet, or had an extraterrestrial threat that came to Earth. Although due to the immense popularity of the Daleks that were introduced in the second story of the series, series, Doctor Who would slowly become less reliant on the historical-based stories, and instead the show would embrace sci-fi high concepts, and episodes would become a Monster of the Week scenario. The show would have a restless momentum, albeit with the exception of the main lead. First Doctor actor William Hartnell was growing ill and was struggling to keep up with the show, and was as well not liking the direction that the programme was heading in. The BBC, not wanting the show to end, came up with a canning plan that they would rejuvenate the Doctor, where his face and personality would completely change, giving them the advantage to swap out the William Hartnell Doctor with another actor, with Patrick Troughton homing the reins of being the next actor to play the Doctor. It has now become a staple and tradition for the show, and has allowed it to continue on with new episodes being made to this day, with currently over 14 main actors to play the Doctor. The series is so far the longest running sci-fi show in the world, and one of the very few TV franchises that has maintained an ongoing continuity. Unfortunately, today, it's no longer feasible to watch every single Doctor Who episode. The show was being produced 18 years prior, before the wide market of home media, and reruns as well were not common practice for television as of yet, and were considered to be a dangerous interference of cast and crew's livelihood in the television business. Rerunning old shows would mean that there would be far less of a demand of producing new programming. Archiving and storing footage and shows was and still is an immensely costly investment, thus for very small companies, especially with Britain with its meagre film industry, it was not seen financially viable for storing old programming. Thus many of the irreplaceable master tapes that they were filmed on were simply wiped over. With newer shows, the majority of old BBC programming from this time only survives thanks to 16mm recordings that were created for international use, although these copies are far in inferior quality to the original master copies. But if they were returned back, they would either be destroyed by the BBC, or disposed by the international broadcasters, or to move them on into other foreign networks. Because of how hasty some of these deals were done by, the paperwork for where each show went off to is extremely unreliable. For Doctor Who, the first 6 seasons have completely missing episodes, with Series 3, 4 and 5 having extremely spotty episode counts. Series 4 has some of the most important missing episodes of the whole Doctor Who franchise. Part 4 of the Doctor Who serial The 10th Planet was the first time the Doctor ever regenerated into a new face. Aside from fragments and clips, the whole episode is missing. The preceding serial, Power of the Daleks, the first outing for Patrick Troughton, is completely missing as well, with no surviving episodes. And while every year that passes it seems less and less likely that every Doctor Who episode will be recovered, there is a small light of optimism. Viewers of Doctor Who at the time were recording the audio tracks from many of these stories, which led way to fan group Loose Cannon reconstructing many of these stories by utilising the original soundtrack and using any other original surviving assets, either being photographs, clips, or mocking up new original animation renders to visually aid as to what's happening in the episode. Reconstructed efforts have further extended to the BBC commissioning animations to accompany the audio. While of course it's not the original, fans are still ecstatic of it being the next best thing, and patiently wait for the day where all missing episodes are fully animated, so they can say that they have watched every single Doctor Who storyline. When you consider how niche these projects may be, that there would be very few shows like Doctor Who that would get this level of love for their content of missing episodes, Doctor Who has to be the most easily celebrated franchise with missing media.